All right, thank you for joining us today. I want to introduce a very close friend of mine, Xavier King. Welcome. And he is a trans man. So I wanted to bring him on today to talk about gender, transitioning, labels, and everything in between. So, starting off, first of all, when did your transition actually start?
So it depends on how you want to
Realistically.
look at it. So transitioning, it can come in many stages or cycles, I suppose, in your life. So I started my medical transition a year ago, and I guess, really open to the public and social transition to Australia and I guess the rest of the world also a year ago. But even 10 years ago, I had, I guess, come out as androgynous and was quite uh, active in the queer community there as like a drag king and doing things of that nature. And I was really clear about the fact that I sat in the center of with like one foot on one side and one on the other. However, I feel like even like especially in North Carolina where I'm from, like 10 and 12 years ago, trans was still kind of really taboo to talk about, and so say it was safer to say I'm androgynous. So it depends on I guess what your personal journey is with transitioning, because just because because some people, when they are identifying as trans, that doesn't mean that they choose to medically transition, socially transition, go on hormones, have surgeries, do all of those things. Everybody does something differently. So I feel like the most common things that you see, depending on where your journey is, it's public, social, and at your workplace. And did you choose to go medically? Did you choose to do a surgery? Did you choose to do hormones, et cetera, et cetera? So um, yeah, that's currently where I'm at. I'm 1 year into taking hormones, so I have been on testosterone, which is Reandron, here in the Australian medical system, which and really supportive, particularly in New South Wales. And yeah, I do plan on in the future doing surgeries. I'm not entirely sure how far I'll take that at the moment. I do know that I would like to have top surgery. That's a really important priority for me. Um, but yeah, so that'll be in the next few years. So I guess you could say I'm in the beginning of the medical portion and future surgical portion.
Cool, because
Yeah.
when did you change your name? That was this year, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that was a bit of a process, and actually, it's really interesting. So it's like on one side of the world, I am legally Xavier King, and on the other, I'm still my birth name. So I'm in the process of trying to mold those two together. But COVID has kept the U.S. Embassy from being open in Sydney, so I can. There's so many strange and very annoying nuances and fire lit hoops that you have to jump through for the legal process of changing your gender and or changing your name. And I say that without trying to not sound grateful, because there's also still 13 countries in the world where it is entirely illegal to be a trans person, um, and to do any of the things that I am like so lucky to be able to do. Um, it's just frustrating because in the middle of the process of being able to do that, there's still stuff like blockages and things, obstacles that are annoying. So one of those things being to change my gender on my passport. I would need to go to the US Embassy and sign one piece of paper in front of a worker. And I can't do that until they open the US Embassy again. But if I wanted to change my name, I could do it through the mail. But it's very strange. It's just a strange loophole, But it gets even worse. It's like if I wanted to change my birth certificate,
Yeah.
I because I was born in Georgia in the U.S., you have to do some really unsafe things to make that happen. So in Georgia, their rule for changing your name or changing your gender marker on your documents, you have to apply to the courts for a petition to change your name. And then you have to write to the local newspaper of the county that you were born in and produce an article written by you, stating what your birth name was, what your intended name is going to be, why you want to change it, and all of those details, and publish it once a week, every week for a month.
What?
And then, yeah, and then if the court decides that your petition is viable, you can then sit in front of a court and have your name changed potentially, but they could also still turn you down. And that's really unsafe, because it even applies for like DV victims. So if you wanted to change your name and you were in Georgia or from Georgia and you wanted to change all your paperwork, say, you still have to go through this really backwoods process in which you're basically outing yourself and who you are and who you intend to be. So then your abusers could come and find you in that. So it's not only unsafe for the trans community, it's also really unsafe for anyone who's in an abusive situation too. So there are I guess other blockages other than the embassy is closed, for me to have to tackle at some point in time. So I changed my name, and Australia was really cool about it. In New South Wales, you only have to be a legal resident here for 3 years in order to change your name. And that process was really smooth in comparison to some of the other stuff that I've had to do to stay a part of the matrix.
And so how did you feel? Because I think I remember when I saw you after you had it changed. How
Yeah.
did it make you feel?
Oh, it was really cool. It was one of those moments I was just like, oh, that's nice. But it was also really interesting because I was going by Xavier for a year before it changed. So it was just like all my documents still said that. And I think the hard part about that is that you're still getting mail, like actual physical mail addressed to, your birth name, and you go and do anything that's of the legal stature, and then you're still being addressed as like, well, I was still being addressed as Mrs. This and Mrs. that and blah this, and it got kind of fun there for a while because I was growing a beard and people were still calling me Mrs. Birth Name, and I was like, yeah, is that do you
Are you
enjoy saying
sure?
that? Like, is that fun for you? And it was kind of fun for me to watch people like, because they were just like not really sure how to deal with me.
Yeah.
So that was it was, and I'm glad that I was able to be in a place where I thought that was kind of amusing because, there are it, this whole process can be very, very hard for people. It's life threatening in some cases. And there was a point in time in my life where I was miserable internally. Like it was such a struggle and such a battle. So to be on the other side of it, feeling much lighter and lighthearted about it, and like, hey, like I feel really confident in my decision and what's happening for me to look at what's happening on the outside while I'm going through this process from a lighthearted place is really nice.
And
It
you've
just
had
shows me.
and you've had to come
Sorry.
up against a real family, like they're not just a loving family that's accepting and supportive. You've had that battle as well.
Um, it's better now than it was in the beginning. And it's interesting. I think that conditioning is a huge thing for everyone, no matter what your role is in your family structures. And I coming from an empathetic and a compassionate place, I understand how difficult it may be to be accepting of something that you don't understand. But then there's a fine line, I think, between you not understanding and choosing to not learn. And thankfully for me, most people in my family are now in a place where they're willing to learn, and they're trying to grow, and they're trying to understand. But for the first 6 months, not always. But it was the same when I said that I was into women. It was just I have always been the abnormal child in my family,
No,
whether it was,
you.
yeah, absolutely, total black sheep. And I own that. I've got no problem being the weird one of my family. I'd go to a family reunion and I'd be like, um,
Where do I fit?
so I'm just gonna get my plate, and I reckon I'm gonna go sit over here without like anyone around me because I'm the awkward guy. That's cool. Yep.
And you have the most beautiful wife, Shell.
Yeah.
And no doubt she's been so supportive and
Oh, so good.
amazing.
She's incredible. And like most of the time cooler than I am. So it's great. She's beautiful. And her family is really supportive, and I've got such an amazing network and community of friends and people. And it's just so especially because I came out as trans, when I was like 20 initially, and I had appointments set up when I lived in North Carolina, and I was ready to go and actually medically transition then. But then I didn't have the support that I have
Mm,
now. And I was living in an environment in which it would have been really dangerous. And I already experienced hazing and danger and death threats, and people broke into my house and cut my power off and carved Confederate flags into the hood of my car in high school when I was just queer. Um, and like people set fire to people's houses and stuff. It wasn't a great place to try and be like, yeah, hey, I'm even more different than you already thought that I was. So I chickened out, and I was like, I can't. I don't think I'm in a good place to do that. And so being here in Australia has been a beautiful blessing, in which it's allowed me to feel safe enough and loved enough and supported enough that it was I was able to finally do the thing that I've wanted to do for so long, and it was such a huge relief.
mm.
um,
So
yeah.
I was going to ask, do you think you could have done it being single? But you kind of answered that, it's not just having that emotional support, it's the country as well. Because I think you
Mm,
mentioned as well, things are done differently. You have different levels of hormone injected here than you would in other countries. So it's going to
yeah,
change anywhere you go.
yeah. So if I wanted to go back to the States, I would have to change like the I guess the type of medicine that I'm on. The testosterone injections would change the frequency. Like in America, you give them to yourself, and you do them weekly, and they're small injections, and everything is a bit different. Here, they're large injections, and you only get them every 3 months, and someone does it for you. So it's just like that itself is different too. And you know what? Honestly, it's like I don't know if I'd be able to inject myself with a needle weekly. And there are some of my trans brothers out there like doing it like champions. It's just no way I can do that.
Yeah.
I don't. So I'm really actually, that's another thing I think to add to my list of reasons why I'm really glad that I waited until now, because I really don't know how that would have went for me. Like I'm able to do that every week. I mean, maybe I would get immune to it eventually, but that's like a huge step that some people do regularly to themselves,
Yeah.
for their well-being.
Well, and
Mm.
so then what kind of, because I've been blessed or honored that I can massage you. Can you talk about how your body's changed physically? Like I know I think you had
Man.
back pain and like headaches, and it must be what your body goes
Yeah.
through, immense like change,
It's been pretty
muscle.
wild. It's been really wild. So in a year's time, like I have went up 2 shirt sizes. I've grown probably, I don't know, I think 3 centimeters or something. Um, and my shoe size is a bit bigger. My clothing size in general, like my pant size, is bigger. I've got massive shoulders. My muscular structure is much bigger. And in the beginning, I did get a lot of headaches. Um, and I think, as with anything, it's like even when you're changing your energy vibration, when I'm working with Reiki or whatever, like I get headaches. I have energetic symptoms. So you can imagine that we're injecting something that is slightly foreign to my body, although my levels of testosterone were a bit higher to begin with anyway. So I was a bit blessed in that. So we were just adding enough to make it normal for a male at my age. Um, so my body was adjusting to that frequency change, so it was causing headaches, and I was really tired for like the first 3 months. I feel like all I wanted to do was nap.
It's like when you're a
um
baby and they want to sleep because they're growing. You've just
yeah,
got
it was
growing bones and
crazy.
growing muscle.
Yeah. And I was having growing pains and like aches and pains all over and just feeling a bit shit for a while. And there was one time that I got a shot, and for the weekend after that, I was put out. Like I was literally in bed for 2 solid days and was really sick. But that was also, there was something else that went on. Oh yeah, I had done a beautiful breathwork journey in which I had done a rebirth with my awesome breathwork practitioner, and so I did all of that in 1 week. Like I had a rebirth and redid my actual
I
birth
remember.
memory, and then went and got a testosterone shot, and then was just like, so fucked.
Yeah,
It
I remember that.
wasn't
I saw
good.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So for my birthday, that was a bit of an explosive thing to do. So I don't recommend doing those two things together. Um, but outside of that, it's like, normal muscle growth. Like because my body is very masculine at this point, and my muscles have changed the shape and how like the density and my strength has increased heaps. My face is totally different.
Yeah.
My hands are bigger. Strange things that you wouldn't even begin to like fathom would be different. My nails, I noticed this like last month, my nails are thicker.
Ooh.
They, not that I had like thin nails to begin with, but they're just, I used to be able to chew them.
Yeah.
It was a super unhealthy habit, but I would occasionally chew them. I can't anymore because they're too hard to get through. It's like
Wow.
you can't do it.
Wow.
Just like the most bizarre things. um yeah. What else, can I tell you?
Beard growth.
Yeah, definitely got a beard. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's a bit scraggly and stuff. It's getting
I
there.
loved right now. If I was tech savvy, I could put the
Um,
pictures up of
yeah,
before, during, because I know you did a few on social media, like before and after, and you look so different, and it was so good to go on that journey with you because it was like I felt like your joy. It was like,
mm,
oh, I was like you're finally coming into your own. It's like, oh, thank God. Like going for a haircut and going, this is how I feel. Now I
yeah,
can openly express how I feel inside for so long. Was that kind of that's kind of
yeah.
but more than a haircut.
Just feeling into like how to describe that. It's like, oh, like every day that I wake up, it's just like a big breath of fresh air. Like I just, and anytime that someone greets me now or there's an interaction change, because that's a huge change too. Socially, there's a
Yeah.
lot of changes that have happened. It's not just physical. Like there's so many things. So I've gotten all kinds of things like "Hey pal" or "brother" or "sir" or
Yeah.
"Mister" or like anytime anybody addresses me and gives me gender euphoria, like it's amazing.
Gender
And I'm always
euphoria, I
like,
like
"Who,
that.
me? What? Oh,
That's
me?"
me. It's me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's me. That's nice. And it's like it's just so good. Like, and I'm not sure when or if that will go away because we're already a year into it, and I'm still like, who? Talking to me?
It's
Oh, that's
you.
cool. Oh yeah. And then I see photos of me, like Chell will take a photo of me or something from behind, or just catch me doing something, and I look at it and I'm so shocked. I'm like, oh, is that what I look like? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm still seeing me sometimes through gender dysphoria eyes. So even when I'm looking in the mirror, I'm still not exactly where I imagine that I would be or how I feel necessarily on the inside. But I can tell you that it's heaps better, and I don't want to harm myself or am I miserably depressed when I look at myself in the mirror. In fact, the fact that I even can look at myself in the mirror for a long period of time now makes me feel better, because I used to just glance and like maybe run my hands through my hair and bounce because I didn't like looking at myself. I had a really hard time with what was coming back to me. Um, yeah, surprises too, because I just, when you live inside yourself and seeing yourself from the outside, it's like a totally different experience.
Yeah. 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 I was gonna touch on your spirituality because you mentioned that as well.
Mm.
Your spiritual work. Do you reckon that's really helped? Oh, I know you're gonna say yes. It's helped you along the way because you talked about the energy changing inside of you and also the work that you do.
Mm.
Can you imagine doing this process without that? Like with
I can, but I imagine that it may be. difficult, but I can't really say because I'm not having that experience. So, for those who are having, a transitional experience without doing the work that I do, I'm sure that they're just having a very different experience. It's very real for them, and it's exactly what they signed up for, and how they chose to do their journey. But for me, it's like I know that the reason that I chose the path that I chose and how I've set up for is because I needed all the stuff that's happening,
Mm,
all the inner work that I have to do in order to be able to support myself and, to step fully into my Aries North Node path and all the things that I want to include in what makes me the makeup of Xavier, from the breath work journeys and the Reiki work and the rewiring my neural pathways and all the things that I need, that are just supportive of a human vessel, um, being consumed with our energetic self inside of it, but also because the transition itself can be really hard on the physical body and on the emotional and mental and spiritual level too, because everything's going to change all at one time, and progressively, or maybe all at once. Um, you know, I know that my mental health was entirely different overnight, so I can't really say like, you know, when it comes to that, it's like I'm really grateful that I set this up for myself in the way that I did in the interlife.
mm.
Right. So we're gonna do this thing, but like we need all this stuff to be in line with it. Otherwise, it's gonna be like an epic failure for you. So here's all the requirements that you're gonna give yourself in order to be able to be successful in this part of, your assignment.
That's so good. I'm going to come back. I'm going to recap as to what you actually do for your work.
Yeah,
But how old are you now? Because you mentioned it was kind of in your 20s. But what's your age now?
that's a good question.
I don't know.
34. I'll be 35 in May. I had to think about that. I
35,
was
same
like,
30.
what? Yeah,
It's not a trick
I'll be
question.
34.
And I wanted to ask actually, anyone out there watching who knows someone going through this or is thinking about going through it, have you got any advice for them? Because whenever I talk to you, and that's why I love talking to you, not only do you make me accountable for what I say, like
Mm,
labels or he, she, and things we throw around, you're so accepting. Like, you're not saying, oh, it's better to be spiritual to do this. You're just like, hey, whatever's good for you is good for you. And I love that. I love that. And when you're saying about being conditioned, and we're all conditioned with these prejudices that we weren't born with, they're all imposed on us.
mm.
Um, what tips have you got for those who are struggling with it and they go, my daughter wants to do this, I don't know what to do, I'm freaking out, I don't know what are my friends going to say, they're going to judge me as a parent, like all of these types of things. Because it's very easy for us to say, just they're the same person, just accept them and support them. But people really struggle with that.
Yeah, they do. So you're kind of asking me what makes someone a good ally.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so so I highly recommend doing some research. And I don't mean doing research like getting on the internet and being like, my child wants to transition. What do I do? Although that is a great question and you might get some really good results. What I actually mean is, if you'd like to support, if it's your child, I highly recommend, especially depending on how old they are, to do some learning and exploring together, because there is no better way to support your child than to go all in with them and allow them to feel really safe. Because there's going to be things that they don't know about, as well as things that you probably definitely don't know about. And there are plenty of resources, no matter where you really are. Especially because, and I say this in the sense that we're not talking about the places in the world that it's a death penalty, in order to be living your most transparent life, I suppose. But if you're in a country in which it's safe, for your person to transition, just do what you can to be open and mindful of their feelings, because I think the thing that I noticed the most is that people take it to heart and think it's about them, and this journey isn't about anybody other than the person who wants to go on it.
Yeah. 100%.
and who knows that it's the path for them. And if they reach out and they say to you that, hey, I would like for you to come with me on this journey, I want to share this part of this really intimate thing with that's happening for me with you.
Mm.
Because remember, I think that's the other thing, is that no one owes you anything. Your children don't owe you anything, your friends, your family members, no one owes you anything. So even if it is your child and they say, hey, I want to share this thing with you, then allow them to have a safe space in order to do that. And if you don't know what's happening, then go and learn. There are networks, there are communities, there are, if you're here, like in Australia, there's like ACON and there's Trans Hub, and there's all these like resources in which you can go and have like help to understand. We're living in a day and time now where it's like, how they have Alcoholics Anonymous, but then they also have like alcoholic stuff for family members who
Yes,
have someone who's an alcoholic in their life. It's the same thing. You literally
yeah,
can go and have like an experience where you're like, right, so I'm not transitioning, but someone I care about is, and I
yeah,
would like to know more information. They even go as far now as like providing training for companies so that the companies can best support their trans workers,
that's
so that
excellent.
they can have the education and the training that they need in order to be able to help them. Because the biggest thing that makes being on a trans journey the scariest is the fact that it's not a safe world, and that other human beings, no matter where we are, there's going to be people who are going to try to bring hate to your life because they don't understand. And sometimes, in some cases, that hate can go as far as death. That can go as far as harassment or abuse or attacking. And it's like, you don't want to be the loved one who is verbally or emotionally or physically or like any kind of way creating that does the same thing that the world may do for them. So that's a big, I think, is just make sure that you're well educated and provide that safe space. And and if you're someone on who wants to embark on being open about your journey, or you're in a place where you're identifying as something that you feel makes you a black sheep, well, like go for it, because only you know who you are intrinsically from the inside out. And
Mm.
it doesn't matter who you're connected to in your network or in your family or your partner or your friends or anything. No one is you and you aren't them. And so you will get all these beliefs thrown at you and all these things that people feel as though say to you. Because you got to be mindful of the fact that from birth we're given all this conditioning belief systems and said, here you go, make them yours. And we spend our whole life trying to put them on, and they're like oversized shirts or they're too tight or whatever, and it's like, just be you, because the more that you accept you, the more that your external environment will mirror that right back to you. So do
That's
that.
that's an awesome segue onto the work that you do, because I was just thinking, as soon as you said that, it's like, yeah, it's your internal that changes your external. And it's
Mm,
so, even when you understand it, I recently had a session this week and it was like, man, my whole external world has changed just by focusing on the love vibration inside me. And you just like, it's still, even though you know it, when it happens to you, you still go, man. So, can you tell us more about the work that you do? Because I have been honored to work with you, honestly, because it's been profound, life changing, deep, emotional. So, sometimes we work with people and it's on a bit of a surface level, and that's dependent on, what stage I'm in as to ready to let go.
mm,
But man, I I'm still actually writing a short story and a poem about an experience I had when you gave me Reiki.
mm.
It was just amazing. So can you tell us more about that? Because we've done empowerment coaching. It's very intuitive. It's really powerful. You cut through the shit. You cut through. You're like, I see you. You're not gonna get away with that, Amanda. I don't cover that up. And yeah, I love it. So can you tell us more about what you do?
Yeah. I would love to. Thank you. First of all, though, I want to say thank you for those really nice words that you say about the work that we did together. And thank you for in the way that you have, because I find number one thing about some of the internal work that we do, it's really hard stuff. That's why not everybody does it, you know. So and it's really difficult. And
Yeah.
you're right. I do have a temperament about me that's like I'm not tolerating that, and you shouldn't either. So but
Yes.
let's work through that. Why are you tolerating that shit for? Like we're not doing that. That's not what we do here.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like what I do is it can be really complicated if we wanted to make it complicated. Easy. So I will give you my title. I am a transpersonal clinical hypnotherapist who, like, I technically, I guess, into doing more spiritual and afterlife, interlife, past life regression, or adjacent timeline work, as well as I also do coaching and mentoring. And I'm a Usui Reiki master who also teaches Reiki 1, 2, and masters to people. That's the title, I suppose, about what I do. And in all of that, also, there's other little titles like a NLP and timeline therapist, and I'm a psychotherapist as well. It's just such a big mouthful. But basically, I do heaps of internal mirror work for people in which we are taking care of our inner child and building foundations for ourselves so that in the long run, we can create an internal environment that then creates a beautiful external environment in which we are feeling strong within ourselves, and you won't need necessarily uh, help from me anymore. Some people say that I'm in the business for not having business.
When you're just too good.
Oh, look,
Well,
I really enjoy what I do, and it's such beautiful work. There's nothing more humbling and amazing to be able to sit and hold space with someone in which we are just like elbow deep in this shit, looking at it, going, well, what do we do with it now? Because in the work that I do, I believe that it's important to be able to move forward. You know, my history is 12 plus years in the mental health industry, as far as from a clinical setting and domestic violence work, and it all has its place in Western medicine. And I believe that we can combine Eastern and Western together and create this beautiful marrying of traditions and cultures and methodology together to create something that allows us to actually step forward into who we want to be. And so that's what I do
and
in
you
a
do a lot of
short
work.
amount.
You do a lot of work with your wife, Shell,
Yes.
Team
Uh,
Universe.
yeah. So we own a business called Team Universe. And
Love
so
that
we
title.
teach we teach together, and we both do our separate things. My wife is a transpersonal art therapist, an artist, and a Reiki master and teacher as well. And she does like she teaches meditation and things of that nature as like incorporated with it. I probably just really butchered all of that. She would be much better at explaining it, but that's a small rundown about what she does. And so together we come together and we created something called Team Universe, in which we are just part of the universe's team out here doing things.
That's so nice. And because are you still selling your products as well? Because
Yeah.
man, they work. I tell you, they work. The focus and the balance in the bath, and it's funny because I tune in. So I bought two, and they're like oil infused, Reiki infused oil, bath oil. Is that how you describe them?
Mm.
And I use them every now and again, and it is like a tune in. It's like, what do I? It's almost like I ask, what do I need right now, and my hand will just go, and I'm thinking focus, and I always bring the focus, like because I don't put them in the same place. It's like that's yes, I need to balance today. I need to rebalance. I need to get in that bath, submerge myself, and it's like, damn, it works every time. So yeah, those are really. I want to thank you for those because they are awesome.
Well, I'm glad that you
Um,
enjoy them.
well, is there any other last message you want to get out there? Because I just love working with you guys. I miss you. I miss seeing you
Same.
regularly and poking your head in and going, hi. It's been weird with
Yeah, it's
lockdown.
pretty. It's been a weird 6 months. Hey,
Mm,
um, I look, I'm really honored that you wanted to have chats with me, and I think it's really cool to be able to be in this space and in the internet space and be able to share, my journey. And I appreciate you taking interest in hearing about like where I'm coming from, but also to anybody who's listening, like, um, and if you have questions, my inbox is always open. Like, I would love nothing more if you've got questions or concerns, or you want to know more about me, or someone is going through something, or you're struggling maybe with something, or even if you just want more information. I've got plenty of resources. I'm more than happy to give them out. And I yeah, and if you're needing anything, just know that like you're perfect exactly wherever and however you want to be in the world.
And what I'll do, if that's okay with you, I'll when we post this, I'll put your email, best contact
Yeah,
details to reach out,
yeah.
because that was the whole purpose of this, is to help anyone else out there and to just blast some of the labels out there. And if we can keep on talking about this stuff, keep on getting out there, getting awareness and acceptance, that's the way forward. That is the way forward for our the love vibration to increase on the planet ultimately. Um, so that's why. So thank you so much for
Thank
your
you for having
time.
me.
Um, and I'll put those on right now. And again, we'll put it on all the social media. I'll tag you. Make sure you stay connected. So anyone needs us, just reach out.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. I
Awesome.
really appreciate you wanting to raise awareness today.
Thank you.